On the 9th of February 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray disappeared in Haverhill, New Hampshire. Maura was a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. In the days leading up to her disappearance, she showed signs of stress, but nothing that suggested she planned to vanish permanently. On the afternoon of February 9th, Maura emailed her professors, stating she would be away for a few days due to a family emergency. This was not true. She packed her belongings, withdrew cash, and drove north alone. At approximately 7:27 p.m., Maura's car crashed into a snowbank on a rural road known as Route 112. Several neighbors witnessed the crash. One resident spoke to Maura briefly and offered help. Maura declined and asked that the police not be called. The witness contacted authorities anyway. Police arrived approximately 7 to 10 minutes later. Maura was gone. There were no footprints leading away from the scene. No confirmed sightings. No clear direction of travel. Her belongings were inside the car. There was no sign of a struggle. Despite immediate searches involving dogs, helicopters, and hundreds of volunteers, Maura Murray was never found. What makes Maura's disappearance especially troubling is the extremely small window of time in which she vanished. Less than 10 minutes passed between the crash and police arrival. Investigators considered multiple explanations. She ran to avoid policeness. She accepted a ride from a passerby. She wandered into the woods. None have been proven. Search dogs reportedly tracked her scent briefly down the road, then lost it. No physical evidence has ever confirmed where Maura went. Over 20 years later, Maura Murray remains missing. Her case is still open. On the morning of the 14th of September 2007, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden left his home in Doncaster, England. Andrew was considered intelligent, quiet, and reliable. He had never run away before. Instead of going to school, Andrew withdrew money from his bank account and boarded a train to London. Security cameras captured Andrew leaving King's Cross Station at 11:25 a.m. He was never seen again. Andrew did not take a jacket, charger, or passport. He did not contact friends or family. No confirmed sightings occurred after that moment. Police initially treated the case as a runaway situation, which delayed the investigation. Years later, the case was reclassified as a missing person investigation. Despite international attention, Andrew's fate remains unknown. No body has been found. No verified communication was ever received. No explanation has been confirmed. Unanswered questions. Why did Andrew travel to London alone? Why did he not buy a return ticket? Why did he leave behind items he would likely need? Every theory lacks evidence. Andrew Gosden remains one of the UK's most haunting missing persons cases. Case 4, the disappearance of Lars Mittank, is approximately equal to 6 minutes. On the 8th of July 2014, 28-year-old Lars Mittank disappeared at Varna Airport in Bulgaria. Lars had been on vacation with friends. Days earlier, he was involved in an altercation and suffered a head injury. He began acting paranoid, telling his mother over the phone that people were trying to harm him. Security cameras recorded Lars entering the airport terminal. He appeared anxious and disoriented. Suddenly, Lars dropped his belongings and ran out of the airport toward a nearby forest. This was the last confirmed sighting of him. Despite extensive searches, Lars Mittank was never found. His disappearance remains unexplained. These cases share unsettling similarities. The disappearances were sudden. The individuals were not known to be reckless. There was no clear evidence pointing to a final outcome. Despite modern technology, witnesses, and large-scale investigations, answers never came. In each case, time worked against the truth. Files remain open. Families remain waiting. What happened to Brandon Swanson, Maura Murray, Andrew Gosden, and Lars Mittank may never be known. They did not leave behind answers, only silence. Welcome to Germany's. People disappear every year. Most of the time, investigators eventually find answers. Accidents, crimes, poor decisions. But some disappearances leave behind nothing. No body, no clear evidence, no final explanation. In these cases, a person is seen, heard, or spoken to, and then simply vanishes. Search teams arrive. Investigations begin. Time passes, but every lead ends the same way, unanswered. Tonight, we are examining real disappearance cases that remain officially unsolved. These are not rumors or internet myths. They are documented events involving real people, real timelines, and real investigations that fail to reach a conclusion. What makes these cases disturbing is not just the lack of answers, but how suddenly the disappearances occurred, often during ordinary moments, in familiar places, with witnesses involved. This is the story of people who did not slowly fade away, they vanished. On the night of the 13th of May, 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson attended a small gathering with friends in Lind, Minnesota. Brandon was a college student, described as responsible and cautious. He rarely drank heavily and had no history of reckless behavior. Shortly after midnight, Brandon decided to drive home. At approximately 1:15 a.m., his car went into a ditch on a gravel road. The vehicle was not badly damaged, and Brandon was uninjured. Instead of calling emergency services, he called his parents. Brandon told them he believed he was near the town of Lind, and that he would walk toward nearby lights he could see in the distance. What Brandon did not know was that he was actually near Taunton, about 25 miles away from where he thought he was. As Brandon began walking, he stayed on the phone with his parents. For over 45 minutes, they spoke continuously. Brandon described crossing fields, climbing fences, and following roads. At one point, he said he could see lights that he believed came from the town. His parents got into their car and tried to locate him while staying on the phone. Despite being relatively close, they could not see or hear him. At approximately 1:54 a.m., while still on the call, Brandon suddenly said the words, "Oh, shit." The phone line went silent. His parents tried calling back repeatedly. The phone rang several times, before eventually going to voicemail. Brandon never answered again. That was the last confirmed contact with Brandon Swanson. The following morning, Brandon's parents reported him missing. Authorities located his car easily. It was stuck in a ditch, keys still inside, undamaged. Search teams were deployed immediately. Hundreds of volunteers, law enforcement officers, tracking dogs, and even helicopters searched the surrounding area. The terrain consisted of gravel roads, open farmland, fences, ditches, and a nearby river, the Yellow Medicine River. Despite extensive efforts, no physical evidence was found. No footprints, no clothing, no phone, no body. Tracking dogs followed Brandon's scent for a short distance, before losing it near the riverbank. Investigators believed Brandon may have fallen into the river that night. However, repeated searches of the river produced nothing. What makes Brandon Swanson's case particularly disturbing is how much contact there was during the incident, and how little evidence remained afterward. Brandon was sober enough to hold a long conversation. He was familiar with rural environments. He had no reason to disappear intentionally. His phone was never recovered. His body was never found. No confirmed sightings occurred after that night. The meaning of Brandon's final words remains unknown. Did he fall? Did he encounter an obstacle? Did something else happen in the darkness? Officially, Brandon Swanson remains a missing person. More than a decade later, his case remains open. No explanation has ever been proven,